Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Legal Access. We get together each and every Thursday at this time to give you access to different aspects of the law. Today we're going to be talking about workers' compensation. If you've been injured on the job, or if you're an employer or a manager at a job and you've got employees underneath of you and you want to make sure that they're taken care of in case something happens to them in the course of their work, then today is the day for you. Our phone lines are open. Phone number is 848-8080, 848-8080. Give us a call here today as far as workers' compensation is concerned. Here on the panel to answer those questions for you from the Maguire Law Firm is Ian Maguire.
Good to see you, Dave.
And also welcome back to Rick O'Neill.
Good afternoon, everybody. I see we all got the memo to wear blue.
That's right.
And blue is the official color of the Maguire Law Firm.
Well, there you go. We didn't call ahead. We just got lucky today. But yeah, and it's great to have Rick back with us. Rick with us last week. This is the second week in a row. It was supposed to be Rick, Tiffany Buffkin, and myself, and she's been in court two weeks in a row, and so we're trying to hold the fort without her, but hopefully she'll be with us next time, right, Rick?
Yes.
But Rick's firm handles workers' comp, as our firm does, which is the topic today, and I know, Rick, you also do personal injury and do criminal defense work, and so if there's any questions on any of those topics, feel free to call, but of course today's topic is workers' comp, Dave. If anybody has any questions, if you're an employee or an employer, and you own a business, just give us a call, 843-848-8080. That's 843-848-8080.
I know a lot of time if you go to your employer and say, hey, I just got hurt doing this, they'll say, well, yeah, I mean, workers' compensation is out there, but you're really not an employee of mine. You're an independent contractor. Does that come up a lot?
All the time, especially in the construction industry, especially with Hispanic workers. There's a lot of games that are played to avoid paying workers' comp insurance, and what really are employees, but they'll set up these little crews that they claim are independent contractors, and so. And
when you say that, you're not saying the Hispanic workers are doing it; it's the contractors that are doing that, and
right.
And then a worker gets injured, and they try to deny responsibility or compensability based on that, but
yeah, these workers really are just used by pawns, by people, on the upstream of the the workers.
And thankfully, our laws in South Carolina do a good job of providing protection for injured people that were. And there's tests that are done. It's really if the employer has control is the basic. Overlay of deciding, but they look at things like how the person's paid, if the person can be fired, they're hired, but can they be fired on the spot? How are they paid by the hour? Are they paid for the project? If there's any marketing that's done on behalf of the company, they look at different factors like that. Are all going to be considered. It's a 4-factor test, but it really comes down to control.
A lot of people might be reluctant to file a claim because they think that, they're going to fire me if I file a claim against them. I mean, is that a real concern?
Well, number one, that's against the law to retaliate against someone and fire them. What you have to be careful about is you're being scrutinized if you do file a claim, and if you're showing up to work late or something, they can always try to find a reason to fire you. But you just look at the whole totality of the circumstances. But that's always a concern. Generally, in reality, it doesn't happen that often, but occasionally it does happen where we filed lawsuits against the employer separate from the workers' comp claim.
Yeah, and Rick's right. Of course, there is a retaliatory discharge claim, but we also got to remember it's basically a right to work state. So it's really easy to let somebody go. Unfortunately, after somebody's injured at work. In fact, people can be injured in a workers' comp accident, and part of the protocol for the company is if you're out of work for 6 months for any reason, you're automatically terminated. And they can do that. Or they can say, I know you were hurt at work, but the point is you can't do the job here anymore and let you go. None of that would be considered retaliatory. Retaliatory is just if you file a claim, they say, well, if you file a claim, we're going to fire you, or just because you filed a claim. And that's a hard thing to prove, right, Rick? Sometimes.
Right. And there's you start off with employment at will, then you bring in the Americans with Disabilities Act, And then you have the retaliatory discharge. And on top of that, you have the Family Medical Leave Act. So you have these federal laws, state laws, a workers' compact, and there's an interplay and an overlap in all those different laws that sometimes is, you need a lawyer to sit down and figure out really where you are legally.
So if you're an owner of a business or a manager, what do you need to know? I mean, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I just hurt myself back in my cubicle, what do you need to know as a manager to be able to point them out in the right direction to do?
Get them medical treatment. Usually, most employers have urgent care, or if it's a real emergency, life, death, send them to the emergency room by EMS or by car. But the main thing is notify your insurance company. They've got a checklist, and they'll help you right through step by step on how to process the claim. Also collect evidence, which more importantly is the video evidence of it and any witness statements.
And they have a form they're supposed to fill out when the first incident, when it's reported to them as well.
What if you didn't really know that you've hurt yourself? What if you, it's not like a broken bone or you're bleeding to death. What if it's something like a strain of a muscle or your back or something like that, and you find out maybe, several weeks or several days later that, hey, this thing that I did back at work is what led to my condition right now?
Yeah, and technically you have, to give notice, what is 90 days, or from a practical standpoint, as soon as you believe that there's an incident that might have caused you any kind of injury, I would report it. The longer you wait, the more you're going to have them defending, the insurance company defending, denying your case. So the quicker you are to make them aware and put them on notice, the better off you're going to be, right, Rick?
Right, and most corporate employers, the bigger employers, and even some of the mid-size already have a handbook, and in the handbook it says report any and all injuries. So
right.
There may be a rule that tells you to do that. At least you want to have a paper trail, text, emails, filling out forms that you were hurt.
But what you brought up is honestly happens a great deal. Somebody has an incident, they think they're going to be okay,
Right.
and they get back to work, they're shaken up, and they don't want to make a big deal out of it, and they're good hard-working people, and then a couple of days later they realize, oh, this is bothering me, and there's nothing wrong with a week or 2 weeks later of putting your supervisor on notice, but it's just so much easier if you do it close in time.
But you have these competing interests. A lot of times managers are getting bonuses if it's a injury-free
Right.
workplace and so on. So while the handbook's telling you report all injuries, the manager really doesn't want you to do that. It's a big hassle to stop and everybody fill out paperwork and
Sure.
do witness statements. So sometimes it gets a little murky.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we're going to run to a break here real quick. When we get back, we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about workers' compensation, that's our topic here today. Give us a call. The phone number's on your screen, 843-848-8080, right here today on Legal Access. Welcome back to Legal Access. We're talking about workers' compensation here today. If you have any questions, don't wait to the very end of the show. We've got plenty of time left to get you on. Phone number is 843-848-8080. Call us today whether you're an employer and you want to know what you need to do if somebody gets hurt on your watch, or if you're an employee and you've been hurt on the job and you want to know what you need to do to make sure that you get what's coming to you. A lot of people ask whether or not insurance companies out there actually have spies or investigators that will look, go out with their telescopic photo, cameras out there to make sure that you're not out mowing your yard or, digging ditches and stuff like that in your backyard if you filed, or they'll check all your Facebook accounts. Is that all true?
Oh, yes.
Any of it true, yeah.
Yeah, especially workers' comp. Now, it's not as prevalent when we do litigation, so if it's a car wreck or somebody injured on premises where it's not a workers' comp case. Because in those cases, they don't want to get in front of a jury and go, wait a minute. First of all, the insurance is never mentioned in a trial.
Right.
So the jury's then going, well, who paid for this investigator to follow this guy around, and that's sort of creepy. So we don't see it as much. I could name on one hand in the all the years where they've done in non-workers' comp, but in workers' comp cases, it's really prevalent. We always warn people, and hey, if you see somebody like sitting outside down from your house, and it's probably someone investigating you, and just let us know, because when we know there's things we can do to discourage it, but I mean, legally they're allowed to do it. It's just,
in the old days, you'd hear these stories that an investigator would stick a knife in someone's tire and make them
fix it,
change the tire and stuff, and I don't know about that, but yeah, from what I understand, they'll generally an investigator for a certain insurance company will go and just, let's say if they're going to be in Myrtle Beach, and just spot check any injured worker that's got an open claim for that insurance company, and they'll go sit on this house for 2 hours, go sit on this house for 2 hours, and just see what's going on.
And the vast majority of the time, in my opinion, it's what they find is benign. It's people doing very minor and things within their restrictions. Every once in a while, and everybody's shocked, and they'll see something that they didn't expect, or somebody's doing a lot more than they're claimed to be able to do. But honestly, the vast majority of times over the years, it's he got into his car and he's carrying a bag or something, and you're like, yeah, he's allowed to do that. He didn't say he couldn't do that, so it's.
But if you go to Sonoma and you're hang gliding, you probably shouldn't post that on Facebook.
Yeah, or that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, you're clip diving and saying your back is so bad you can barely walk. A lot of it is the way it'll hurt somebody is they'll have the video, they'll take the deposition of the person doesn't know about the video, and they'll say, well, have you done this, or this? And they'll say no, and they've got them on this. So now the credibility is sunk. So we always, again, our first letter is always be honest, don't exaggerate, all that. And 95% of the people, if not more, are completely honest, and that's not an issue.
What if you're on the job and you get hurt, but it was your fault? I don't know what you did, but something that you did has resulted in your own injury. Does that affect your claim at all?
Yeah, workers' comp is a no-fault system. You could be 100% at fault, 1% at fault. It could be egregious fault of your employer that everybody's been complaining, hey, this problem in the shop, and it was never fixed. It could be a co-worker's fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. If it happened on the job or in any way connected with your employment, it should be covered by workers' comp.
Now, the exceptions are if there's horseplay, if you're involved in an assault that you were initiated, if you were drunk or under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and the result of the drugs or alcohol is what caused the incident, you may be in a position where you're not able to recover benefits. But for the most part, as Rick did a good job outlining, it doesn't matter who's at fault if you're at work.
Okay, let's say you're granted workers' compensation. How much do you get paid, and how long does that last?
Well, usually the most you can be out of work in workers' comp is 10 years, and then the benefits run out where you're getting disability checks every week. Yeah. So there are cases with catastrophic injuries and people that have full and total disability for the rest of their life. They get benefits for life, but generally there's a 10-year window.
And a lot of people are working side hustles these days. If I get hurt on job A, but I lose the income from job B because I can't work that as well, am I able to recover that too?
Yeah, well, it's nice in South Carolina that they will use the aggregate if you have multiple jobs, take that amount, and then 2/3 of your average weekly wage is what you get. It doesn't affect the other job if you weren't hurt at that job, but you would request the tax returns or W-9s or whatever from the various places you work, and then your compensation rate for the week will increase.
So which insurance company is from job B? Does the insurance company for job B have to pay me for that, or job A's insurance company where I got hurt?
Where you got hurt is going to pay it, But if you can demonstrate that you made more money at various jobs, and that's what your average weekly wage is when you compare, excuse me, when you aggregate the various jobs, put them together, that's what your total is going to be. But yeah, the only payment is going to come from the insurance company from where you were injured.
I know that legally you're not required to have workers' comp insurance unless you've got 4 or more employees, but what's the worst case scenario that you guys have seen if somebody is like a self-employed individual or only employs like 1 or 2 people and they've had to pay out? I mean, what happened? What can happen if you don't have workers' comp?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that the reason you want to have workers' comp, even if maybe you're not required to do so, is if not, and something happens where you're negligent, you're going to be on the hook potentially for a claim where you're getting sued outside the umbrella of workers' comp because you didn't have it. And at that point, the injured person can get pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, things that are not part of the workers' comp statute. So the workers' comp statute, compared to other states, I think is pretty fair, but it has its limitations. It definitely has parameters that you're not going to be able to get outside. There's definitely a limit to recovery, right, Rick?
Right. I mean, I've had remember one guy years ago called. He fell off a second floor roof. He was the owner of this small company, wasn't required to have the workers' comp, and he's calling, seeking, what am I going to do? My life is ruined. And, hey, you were, because of the cost of it, you elected not to get it. You should have, and you're out of luck. So.
And in that case, there was nobody. It wasn't a fault-based thing. So if he had, you can get insurance actually for yourself, and I've had people who've done that. So.
But just because you work for someone that just has a couple employees, a lot of companies will not be allowed on premises unless they have workers' comp.
Right.
So, that's not all. If you get hurt with a small employer, still, check it out with the employer first. Hey, do we have workers' comp? Or check it out with the law firm that handles
sit down with
injury
an
cases.
attorney, yeah, because it would go upstream if the subcontractor didn't have it and the contractor had it, you still should be protected under workers' comp.
And we're not a major market with a lot of offices that had a lot of people working from home over the last 3 or 4 years, but we do have some people who have been working from home since the pandemic hit. Well, if you're in the scope of your duties at home and you get hurt, are you still eligible for workers' compensation?
Yes.
Yes. It's going to be a little more difficult and fact specific, and insurance companies are known for screening as much as they can to avoid paying a claim. So, that's going to be scrutinized more than a claim that happened, walking to your car on a lunch break at a warehouse or something like that, where you're on the employer's premises.
And they've seen it, and they either have a witness or a camera that's seen it happen. Yeah.
Tell you what, we've got to take another break here real quick. When we get back, we'll have about 10 minutes left or so. So don't wait to the very last minute. You're already waiting too long. But if you have any questions about workers' compensation, call us right now. Phone number's on your screen. 848-8080 is our phone number. Call us today, and we'll get you on the line and get your questions answered about workers' compensation here on Legal Access. Welcome back to Legal Access. We're talking about workers' compensation here today on the show, and still got a few minutes left if you'd like to give us a call if you have any questions one way or the other. The phone number is 843-848-8080. Did get somebody on the phone with us who didn't get a chance to hang on that was asking about, now I know, Rick, you talked about the fact that down the road, if you're getting disability, your workers' comp, rather, that could transition into disability. But what if you're going to be having long-term problems with operations you might need for your back or for your brain, or any kind of paralysis or anything else that might be going on? Is medical included there for lifetime?
It all depends. Really, if you come to us as a lawyer, we're going to say, where's the settlement documents? Give us all the documents you have, and we're going to sit there and read through everything and see what's in black and white. So that's why it's so important, really, when you get to the settlement stage in a workers' comp claim, to at least just get advice from a lawyer, not necessarily even if you don't want to hire them, so they may give you some advice on what exactly needs to go in these settlement documents. With the forms or agreements and so on. And if anything is left out, it's usually there's no way to go back and fix it later.
Right.
So yeah, it's state by state. Some states you get much more liberal benefits in South Carolina, but it all depends on what state, what's in the documents, whether you're permanently and totally disabled, or whether it was just a disability to your, let's say, your back only, or your leg, just one body part. But it's a case by case basis, but you can get benefits for life.
And workers' compensation is just salary based. It has nothing to do with pain and suffering or loss of enjoyment of life or any of those other kind of objective
No, but
views.
towards the end of your case, when it is time to either go to a hearing or resolve it at a mediation or settlement, you're going to make determinations if somebody can't work anymore, and the other thing is the injury permanent, and that's what we always look at. If somebody's out of work for 3 years, we don't go back and go, well, for those 3 years they were in a lot of pain. Well, if we were in a trial in a non-workers' comp case, that would be very pertinent, but it's actually not in a comp case. What's important is the permanency of your injury and the limitations that you have because of the permanent injury.
All right, we do have a couple minutes left, enough time to fit in a call or two. Let's go to Myrtle Beach right now. Robert is on with us. Hi, Robert. Thanks for calling in. What's your question today?
Hey, Dave. This is your favorite prize pig from your radio days. And I just want to say how badly you are missed, man. I've been listening to you for 30 years, and it really stinks what happened.
Well, it happens. Broadcasting's a cruel mistress from time to time, but I appreciate you being there, Robert. Do you have any questions for us here today?
No, I just want to say we miss you, Otto.
All right, well, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I'm still around.
Well, thank you for the call, and I know that he's not alone, Dave. I think there's many people that are missing you in the mornings on the radio, so I'm glad you're here with us at least every week.
Yeah, after 40 years, it's nice to sleep past dawn for a change on a regular basis. It's very unusual, but it's nice to. All right, we still have a couple of minutes left in case you'd like to get in. Okay, let's talk about driving. A lot of people drive company vehicles. They're driving a company vehicle. Is that workers' compensation? Is that an automobile accident claim? Where does that lay on the spectrum there?
Yeah, so if you're driving at work and you're injured and it's not your fault, you have basically two bites at the apple. You have your workers' compensation case, and if you're in this situation where you're at work and you're injured in a car wreck and it's someone else's fault, please sit down with an attorney, because there's ways that both cases need to be handled, and if they're not handled the right way, you might lose out on some benefits that you're owed. So both claims offer in different damage models, I guess the best way to put it, but like we talked about, permanency of your injury, both of those claims would have that. You have lost wages, but in the third party case, you have loss of enjoyment of life, the pain and suffering, and the emotional trauma and all that goes with it, right, Rick?
And there's also something called, sort of overlaps on this, a going and coming rule. If you're going home but you're on the way to pick up supplies or drop something off at the bank or the post office, that may be covered even though you're not on the clock. Same thing coming to work if you're in a company supplied vehicle, or if you're going to pick up, again, stuff for work or pick up another employee. There's ways under the going and coming rule that even though you're not on the premises, you can still get coverage.
Well, could the argument be made that I wouldn't have gotten up this time in the morning and been on the road if it weren't for the fact that I was employed by you, so you are responsible for the accident that I just had?
Well, arguments can always be made. There is a going and coming rule, but if you're not at fault, you would have, regardless of the workers' comp case, you would have the third party case where you can recover your damages.
Tell you what, that's about all the time we have for our show here today. Appreciate you being part of it, and thanks for watching. If you have any further questions about workers' compensation, you can email us. Our email address is legalaccess@wmbfnews.com, and we'll get back to you if you want to get us that way. If not, next week when we get back together, DUI is going to be our topic. That'll be next week's topic. In the meantime, I want to thank our panel here today, both Ian Maguire from the Maguire Law Firm and Rick O'Neill. Thanks for being part of it here today, and we'll be back again next week. Like we said, DUI is our topic. Our email address, legalaccess@wmbfnews.com. I'm Dave Priest. See you later.
You may wish to consult a lawyer to obtain case-specific legal advice. Information regarding lawyers can be located online or by contacting the South Carolina Bar Lawyer Referral Service, toll-free at 1-800-868-2284. If you are currently represented by an attorney, you should direct all legal questions to your attorney. The nature of any legal issue may depend on a multitude of factors. Therefore, the information provided in this program is purposefully broad and does not constitute legal advice. Please contact and retain an attorney in order to obtain case-specific legal advice.